Alright, you and I are kicking off with some absolute garbage news. A Korean hunter team just failed a 6-star gate raid again. After that epic fail, netizens went wild in the comments, totally stressing out over next year's big international tournament. Honestly, the tension was starting to get real. In a squad van, an older hunter watching the broadcast grumbled that Korea's classic rivalry with Japan was basically dead. There was simply no way they could compete with them now. A rookie snapped back, claiming the Korean hunters still brought in way more cash than the Japanese pros. But the older hunter in the back just sighed. He tried to keep the peace, telling them both to have some faith in the new generation, despite the constant losses. Then, he turned to ask the rescue team leader, Seo Yuel, what he thought about it. Yuel calmly replied that politics were for combat hunters to worry about. Their rescue squad only needed to focus on the urgent distress call they were heading toward right now. The driver laughed a bit, teasing Yuel for always being such a serious, no-nonsense guy. The rookie, who was watching the news, piped up again, pointing out that big guilds are all selfish, leaving the dirty work to them. Yep, the rescue squad always takes the heat. Yuel silently smiled. It was the classic complaint of a tired civil servant. But deep down, he knew it was the absolute truth. Now, pay attention here. The hunter agency was mostly made up of mid-tier hunters, split into 3 branches. Whenever a raid went horribly wrong inside the gates, it was the rescue squad that had to charge straight into danger to pull survivors out alive. As their leader, Yuel's special job was being a tracker. He could spot tiny clues and traces that normal hunters would completely miss. Just then, the van pulled up to the emergency site, and they got ready to breach the gate. Their goal was rescuing the epic guild. But suddenly, some guy with a slimy smirk walked right up to them. He mockingly praised the rescue team for working so hard, even calling them darlings. Yuel silently realized there was always some arrogant jerk showing up just to look down on them. Meet Baek Jun-hwan, an executive from a giant guild called Overcross. He was famous for sending weaker partner guilds into dangerous gates completely unprotected. All he cared about was money, with zero regard for human life. To Yuel, this greedy bastard was the main culprit behind half their emergency rescue calls. You and I both know he's the one who caused this mess too. Losing his patience, Yuel coldly told him they were on a tight clock and marched his squad right past him. But Jun-hwan wouldn't let it go, offering backup from his own guild and asking if they were really sure they didn't want the help. Yuel knew this guy was just trying to cover his own tracks and make himself look good, so Yuel shut him down hard, saying they'd do their jobs without relying on toxic handouts. Jun-hwan just sighed, calling it a real pity. Meanwhile, inside the gate, they were deep in an ancient Inca jungle. A young healer was desperately using her magic to keep an injured ally alive, but bloodthirsty monsters had her totally cornered. Just as a beast lunges to tear her apart, Yuel flashes in, slicing its head off with a perfect spear strike. He immediately calms the terrified girl down, letting her know the rescue squad has arrived. A veteran squad member shouts a warning. Dozens of ghouls are swarming the entrance they just came through. They need a backup exit right now. Sensing the danger, Yuel springs into action. He triggers his silent wave skill, focusing his hearing to catch tiny sounds no ordinary human could trace. Within seconds, he maps out every monster's location and finds a hidden pathway to escape. The moment he spots the trail, he gets the injured hunter onto a teammate's shoulders. They bolt at full speed. The rescued girl is shaking with pure terror, and though she knows she shouldn't complain, she asks if this route is actually safe. The veteran proudly tells her that even though Yuel is only ranked D, his tracking skills are absolutely world-class. But trust me, you and I are going to want to see if they actually make it out alive. Stick with me. We are diving into a path crawling with way more enemies than before. The ghouls themselves were not a massive threat, but carrying the wounded through non-stop fighting was draining everyone dry. Still, Seo was absolutely sure this specific path would lead them straight to the exit. But here is the real issue. The monsters knew it too. Dumb ghouls are easy, but everything changes when a necromancer starts micromanaging their every move. Feeling the heavy danger, So Yuel triggered his 6th sense, realizing a puppet master was nearby pulling the strings. And he was spot on. A pitch-black magic circle erupted directly beneath their feet. Luckily, most of them sprinted clear just in time, but unfortunately, only Sewell and the veteran hunter got left behind. They were violently dragged down by the crushing gravity of the necromancer's magic. Seeing the trap, the veteran screamed at Sewell to run and save himself. But instead of running, the tracker delivered a hard kick straight to his ally, shoving him to safety while trapping himself inside the magic circle. With that last move, So Yul was completely paralyzed. Now watch this. The frantic veteran begs him to hold on while trying to break him out. But So Yul immediately shut him down. He snapped his head toward their manager, Lee Han. yelling at them to get the hell out right now, because staying meant certain death for everyone. Seo Yul demanded the manager get the survivors and the squad to safety as fast as humanly possible. Eaten alive by guilt, Manager Lee Han choked out a quick apology and retreated. Sula yelled after him, warning him not to count him out, because he had zero plans to die today. Even frozen solid and surrounded by hungry ghouls, Seo Yul glared straight at the terrifying shadow stepping forward. It was Caracal, the dungeon boss, and a deadly necromancer. Seo spat out a question, asking if the beast was playing a sick game from the start. Caracal hissed back that this was exactly the plan, though he admitted the human brat actually surprised him by being so good at running away. The monster then demanded to know how on earth a mere human knew the layout of this ancient temple so incredibly well. Seo Yul smirked, suggesting that if the monster kept him alive, maybe he would share the secret. But the necromancer scoffed, saying he had no reason to bargain when he could just turn him into another mindless ghoul. Right then, a devastating curse slammed directly into Seo. His ability to heal and regenerate was instantly crushed and completely shut down. I know what you are thinking. If he just accepted help, maybe he survives, right? Maybe he would have made it out, or maybe his brutal fate would be exactly the same. He bitterly remembered how guild leaders and executives only ever cared about cold, hard cash instead of saving innocent human lives. In a world full of selfish cowards, Seo Yul remembered the hero who saved him years ago. That hero, unable to save anyone but Sul, had wept bitterly on that tragic day. Driven by that heavy trauma and deep admiration, Sul wanted to become just like him, a true hunter who protects the weak. With that burning resolve locked in, he absolutely refused to die in a trash heap like this. Once again, he pushed his synesthesia and sixth sense way past their absolute limits. Desperately searching for any clue or escape route to save his life, Seo Yul suddenly detected a cracked monument deep within the temple, glowing with intense light. The system responded to his desperate struggle, giving him direct access to the files of a secret hidden class. Meanwhile, the necromancer Caracal mocked him, saying the boy was struggling in vain, and promised to end his misery once and for all. As the ghouls lunged forward to tear him to shreds, a sudden system prompt popped up, asking if he would like to change his class to Dungeon Architect. With nothing left to lose in his final moments, he instantly accepted the offer. The moment the transformation triggered, his tutorial officially kicked off. Visions of the entire temple flashed through his mind, showing it from completely different perspectives. Even Caracal stood completely dumbfounded, unable to comprehend how this weak piece of trash suddenly vanished into thin air. And just like that, we see him vanish into an entirely new space. Alright, let's dive into this epic story, where Seo Yul is staring down a level 10 class change quest on his screen. Talk about average stats: 80 HP, 17 strength, 20 agility, 30 mana, and a measly 16 defense. But on the bright side, he still had his sixth sense and his silent waves active. Was his old observer class gone forever? Looking around, he realized this weird place was actually just a tutorial zone for his brand new class. The system dropped the main quest, used the map to hunt down 20 ghouls inside the labyrinth within a strict 24-hour limit. Succeed, and he becomes a permanent dungeon architect. Fail? The entire class change quest gets cancelled instantly. The warnings made sense, but Seo Yul was left scratching his head about these mysterious map functions. Then, right as he said it, a three-dimensional map hologram of the labyrinth popped up right in front of him. It was super clean, a green pointer showed exactly where he was, and red dots marked every enemy lurking in the maze. He instantly figured out the whole system. Using this map to clear the ghouls within a single day was his golden ticket to a brand new class. To some, hunting this many monsters in such a massive area feels like absolute madness. But pay attention, because here is the twist. For an experienced tracker like him, this was actually light work. So, he jumped straight into action. And honestly, the hunt turned out to be incredibly fast. By the time he slaughtered the 16th ghoul with only 30 minutes left, he actually leveled up. With only 30 minutes left to eliminate the last 4 monsters, he had to pick up the pace. Up until now, this tutorial was honestly feeling way too easy and relaxed. He was even stripping off the dead ghoul's claws to use as makeshift weapons, using his map to hunt down each target one by one. Honestly, he was taking these guys down at a very comfortable and steady pace. He was completely confident he would finish on time until he noticed a massive shadow stalking him from behind. This ghoul was absolutely massive and entirely different from the rest. The beast moved on its own, stalking Seo Yul through the winding maze. Let's pause here. If he fights this thing, it'll eat up all his time, and honestly, we don't even know if he can beat it. If he was going to take down this giant, he needed to wipe out the smaller ghouls first to buy himself some breathing room. But right then, the giant beast closed the distance. Except he didn't come alone, he brought the other 3 remaining ghouls with him. Seo Yul was completely blindsided. He never expected them to team up, since up until now, that giant had been wandering completely solo. During those final critical minutes, he totally forgot to check his map, and that lazy slip-up landed him right in this absolute mess. It was a textbook rookie mistake. He quickly formulated a plan. He could only handle fighting 2 ghouls at a single time, meaning his only real option was to get the hell out of there immediately. But the massive problem? He was totally cornered. He had to force his way through, taking down at least one on the run. No matter how he looked at it, this was total checkmate. Was this really his limit, as a mere D-rank hunter? The odds were stacked against him from the start. But wait, if this whole setup was just a tutorial to become a dungeon architect, he decided he might as well treat it like one. He charged straight at the pack like an absolute madman, fully unleashing his 6th sense. This sudden move let him spot a rotating block, linking his 6th sense right to the map interface. It made no sense at first, but as he analyzed the map with closer attention, he noticed a tiny hand icon prompting him to physically spin that specific wall. The instant he flipped the wall, he slipped through, trapping the furious ghouls on the other side. This isolated a single ghoul, and he instantly pounced to tear it to shreds. Seo Yul realized how insanely broken this trick was, giving him a massive edge to clear the remaining targets within the time limit. He kept spinning walls to vanish and reappear, striking the confused monsters completely off guard. When only the mutant giant remained, he blindsided the beast as well, jamming his blade deep into its neck with raw force, but the monster still fought back with insane rage. The creature clamped its razor-sharp claws tightly onto his face, trying to crush his skull by any means necessary. But he put it down for good, proving he didn't struggle all this way to die, and trust me, we're just getting started. Alright, you and I are about to watch Seo Yul finally complete his tutorial and unlock a crazy new class dungeon architect. This rank up gives him 2 unique abilities, King of the Dungeon and the Gate. And that first skill? Any ghouls he defeats while it is active are instantly drafted as loyal monsters for his personal lair. Just like that, his transformation is complete. But outside the dungeon, things are pure chaos. Manager Lee Han is frantically trying to charge back inside to save Yul. The other rescue squad members yell at him to stop, because right before their eyes, the gate completely vanishes. They ask how he expects to find Yul now. But right at that exact moment, the man himself appears. He strolls right out of thin air, totally relaxed, holding a tiny umbrella and eating a sweet popsicle. He casually looks at the shocked team and asks what all the yelling is about, even offering them popsicles to celebrate a successful mission. What a guy. Later on, in private, our main character takes a closer look at his new gate skill. It basically lets him trap enemies inside his dungeon. Outside of his labyrinth, this is going to be his absolute best weapon. Now, pay attention here. This S-rank skill is insanely powerful, but it comes with a major catch. If the trapped enemies manage to defeat his dungeon boss, they can break free. Even worse, doing that makes them way stronger than before. Knowing this massive risk, Yul realizes he can't just throw people in there randomly. Since the gate is invisible to everyone else, kidnapping targets and dragging them inside is a piece of cake. But to survive the deadly threats ahead, he needs to stock his dungeon with elite, high-tier monsters. Right now, his army is just a bunch of low-level ghouls. To upgrade his forces, he has to hunt down new enemies, using that King of the Dungeon skill. While waiting around, a familiar face finally returns. His friend Yunhui drops by, carrying a massive bag full of fresh apples. She casually claims her family always has way too much fruit lying around anyway. They have been next-door neighbors for 5 long years. Yul takes the chance to ask how she is doing and how school is going. Yunhui just sighs and says school is the exact same boring routine as always. But watch closely, because right then, a sudden emergency erupts right in front of them. A terrified woman is being dragged away as a full-blown dungeon break tears through the area. She is crying and screaming because her little daughter is still trapped inside the building. Staring up at the massive hotel towering right in front of him, Yul immediately recognizes this as a classic dungeon break. These terrible disasters happen when a gate is ignored for too long, allowing the monsters to break free and invade the human world. He quickly apologizes to Yunhui, asking if he can pick up those apples from her a bit later. She nods, but nervously asks what he is up to. Yul is completely focused on his duty as a rescue hunter. He slips right past the yellow police tape, flashing his official hunter badge. A guard immediately blocks his path, demanding to know why he is charging in there all by himself. Yule calmly explains the backup team is on their way, but he is going first. The guard snaps back that it is way too dangerous, warning him that a massive swarm of red goblins is inside, and going in alone is pure suicide. Yule fires back, telling the guard that is the exact reason he has to move right now. He explains that there is still a helpless child trapped somewhere inside the hotel, and since the greedy guild responsible for this area hasn't even shown up yet, he is going to handle it alone. He promises he will be totally fine, adding that in reality, he is definitely not alone. Normally, this specific hotel gate was supposed to be cleared by the massive Hyunmu Guild, the giant corporation ruling over this district. Regular people put all their trust in these huge guilds to clear gates so they can live in peace. But these greedy guilds often ignore low-rank gates that do not make them a ton of money. Because of this corporate neglect, innocent people suffer from sudden dungeon breaks. The second he steps inside, Yule is met with a truly horrific scene. Dead hotel staff lie scattered across the main lobby floor. Sensing the danger, Yule activates his skills and commands the hidden monsters to show themselves, telling them he already knows where they are hiding. And trust me, you and I are about to see him test some crazy new powers. Alright, you and I are jumping right into a brutal, coordinated goblin ambush. Cool reacts instantly, tearing open his gate while those goblins are still mid-air in their attack leaps. They get violently sucked straight into the rift, landing right inside Soul's private dungeon. They get torn to shreds by his ghouls. This is where he truly begins to show off the real power of his new class. These red goblins are classified as one-star monsters. They always sync up their movements around their leader. Honestly, they are not much different from normal goblins, except for one major, crucial detail. They are way smarter and pull off far deadlier ambushes. 3 of them throw themselves at the very first ghoul in the labyrinth, trying to drag it down by pure force. But So Yule is not about to let that happen. He smoothly opens up his map functions and spins a wall, completely blocking 2 goblins and isolating the last one to be ripped apart by his loyal ghoul. So Yule mutters to himself that these monsters are plotting some annoying little tricks. The moment he looks away, he notices the goblins are already adapting to his dungeon environment. Even so, he loves how his ghouls do all the hunting. It is a sweet deal not having to lift a single finger himself. Still, with so many goblins flooding his private dungeon, Co decides to keep a very close eye on everything, letting them try their sneaky, treacherous tricks all they want. Because inside this dungeon, those monsters are the prey, and he is the ultimate predator. Eventually, Soul heads up to the 17th floor of the hotel and finds the missing child, a little girl named Sumi. She is crying, completely frozen in absolute terror, but he reassures her that everything is taken care of, and she is finally safe. On their way down, Sumi anxiously asks if he really got rid of all those scary monsters. Soul smiles and says yes, though he secretly laughs knowing his ghouls did all the actual heavy lifting. But since those creatures work for him, he still gets all the credit. He thinks back to his climb up the hotel, where the goblins were using their keen sense of smell to sniff out any hidden humans. If Co had not shown up when he did, little Tsunumi would have definitely been captured by them. Right before stepping into the elevator, Seol receives a sudden, massive system alert, warning him that 50% of his defenders are dead. Watch closely as he calmly ushers Sumi into the elevator, telling her that her mother is waiting anxiously downstairs, and quietly letting her know that he needs to stay behind just a little longer to clean up the bad guys. Checking his dungeon status, Co Yule sees the goblins are causing chaos and have already slaughtered half his ghouls. At this rate, his entire defense force is going to die. The cause of this slaughter is the Red Goblin King, commanding the field with a devastating fireblade. Seo could just let this Goblin King fight the main boss of his dungeon, but there is a huge risk that his own boss might actually lose that fight, which would make things even more complicated. I know what you are thinking, but So Yule has to step in personally, crossing the portal straight into his own dungeon. Right off the bat, he finds his fallen guards and angrily warns the monsters to stop messing with his ghouls. Then he literally spins a wall, pulling the Goblin King away from the others. Now, they are standing face to face. Seo Yule summons his blade as the Goblin King swings a flaming sword. This narrow corridor leaves barely any room to dodge. Because of that, Seo Yule keeps backing away, slowly building up some distance. Even so, his body feels incredibly light compared to before, thanks to a massive level up. He is level 24 now, with 150 stamina, 45 strength, 40 agility, 90 magic, and 48 defense. He can feel the difference. He openly mocks the Goblin King, saying he originally planned to just sit back and let his ghouls do the testing, but now he is going to handle things personally. Seo Yule's next strike actually shatters the Goblin King's bones, The beast retaliates, hurling the hunter far away, but it cannot even swing its sword anymore since its arms are completely shattered. Now, So is in the absolute perfect position to end this. He looks down and mocks the Goblin King, asking where all that confidence went. He tells the boss that if he is a king, he should fight like one. Or is he just a coward? Trust me, you and I are about to watch this beast get destroyed. Alright, you and I are starting with this furious Goblin King going totally ballistic, charging straight ahead with a flaming sword. Our main character casually responds that the monster better be worth the investment. Out of nowhere, massive spikes from the ceiling crash straight down onto the beast. Only a single severed arm clutching his sword is left outside the trap. Setting that up cost 20 gold, but it easily bore fruit and guaranteed great results. Thanks to that massive kill and achievement, he levels up. The defeated red goblins and their king are now absorbed into his own dungeon system. But when he finally steps out of the hotel, his manager is waiting for him. Seo Yul asks what is up, and the highly annoyed manager snaps that he has been waiting, demanding to know what crazy stunt Yul pulled all on his own. He wants to know if So Yul is alright, and if he actually wiped out the red goblins himself. Seo Yul plays dumb, claiming he cannot remember anything since he recently bumped his head. The manager snaps back, mentioning that literally everyone is whispering about how the monsters vanished the moment he arrived. Watch closely here, just as our main character starts joking about needing some premium Korean barbecue to remember, a mysterious suit suddenly approaches them. The man introduces himself as Kwon Seung-sun, a manager representing the massive Hanu Guild. But the rescue crew is not exactly thrilled to deal with a corporate guild manager. First, he politely thanks them for containing the dungeon break before getting straight to the point, requesting that they all completely avoid doing any press interviews. The Hanu Guild wants this entire incident kept strictly under wraps. They promise to cover all hotel damages, claiming that bad press would only cause unnecessary panic among the citizens. Naturally, they are offering a massive donation to the department to buy their silence and understanding. Seo Yul instantly recognizes this as a classic cover-up. Still, the corporate guy has a point. Unlike their underfunded department, which is mostly made up of lowly rank D hunters, the Hanu Guild has elite heavy hitters going all the way up to rank S. Because of that, the public naturally trusts these powerful guilds, viewing them as legendary heroes saving the day. And yeah, you and I can see why this greedy exploitation gets him totally furious, but he knows this is reality, and he cannot change the system by himself. Putting a hand on Kwon Seung-sun's shoulder, he says he completely understands, though secretly, he had zero intention of making a big scene in the first place. Even if he spoke out, the association would just bury it, and bringing heat on himself serves no purpose. But he slyly wonders out loud exactly how much the guild intends to donate, implying he might just keep cleaning up their messes. So Yul gets brutally honest and demands 10 billion won to buy his silence. Kwon Seung-sun gasps in sheer horror, stammering at the massive 10 billion price tag. The following morning, he is chilling at a plaza, sipping iced tea. After handling that hotel dungeon break, he was granted 2 well-deserved days off. He single-handedly saved the day, and even extorted a mountain of cash from the guild. The only catch is that his colleagues are giving him highly suspicious looks, wondering if he is really the same old Yul, and how on earth he cleared a whole horde of red goblins alone. But he has no reason to explain. If word of his reawakening spreads, life will get incredibly annoying, so he is just focusing on upgrading his personal dungeon for now. First, he needs to spend gold to fix the broken walls and revive his monsters. Right now, durability is sitting at 80 out of 150, so fully repairing everything will cost 34 gold. Reviving a ghoul costs 1 gold, 2 goblins is another gold, and a red goblin king is 3 gold. Gold coins are the universal currency for hunters, making it easy to calculate since the exchange rate remains identical across all dungeons. The real issue is that repairs are still insanely expensive. 53 gold is equivalent to about 5.5 million won, nearly double his monthly salary. Still, having 80 gold in his pocket, he decides to invest it. But right then, his peace is shattered by a highly unwelcome phone call. A woman is calling on his day off, so he answers with a sigh, stating he is off duty and telling her to make it quick. It is the monitoring department's annoying lackey, who snaps that she does not care and accuses him of just slacking off at some park. She says his free time is actually perfect because she needs him to use his special tracking skills to locate someone for her. He listens to Lee Jong-hee prattle on, but responds with absolute silence, slowly pulling the phone far away from his face. And that is where we leave him realizing he might not need to revive all those monsters after all. Trust me, our main character really needed to cut down his expenses. If things got bad, Honestly, it would just be faster to step in and handle it himself. If it came to that. I mean, he literally told this woman to shut her mouth right to her face. She had been rambling non-stop up to that second. So he told her, if she was from monitoring, she should find the guy herself. Lee Jung-hai fired back, begging politely, and promising to buy him food. She actually asked if that was how he treated a beautiful, delicate girl, pleading for his help. He was instantly highly suspicious about the beautiful and delicate part. She insisted she was, adding that the moment he heard the target's name, he would want to look for him personally. Then, she revealed it was Kang Tan. Seo Yul confirmed the name and admitted he would honestly love to see him one more time. If the target was a guy of that insane caliber, he would find him in no time. Later, he was hanging around the plaza, watching some old men play Go. But of course, he was not really watching the match. He was just completely lost in his own thoughts. He could feel it from a distance, but up close, it was absolute madness. One of those elders had a dark red aura that only God-tier awakened warriors possess. But setting that aura aside, he wondered if this was really the target, because he looked totally different from his expectations, just a normal, everyday old guy. One elder asked Seo Yul if he knew how to play Jangi. He answered that, yeah, he knew a little bit about it. The old man asked for a winning tip, but check this out, the moment he tried to help, his sixth sense screamed danger. Boom! A massive blast shattered a tree behind them because the other old man literally flicked a game piece, blowing a crater into the wood. The first elder told him to ignore anyone coming near with hidden motives, but honestly, that was absolutely impossible. Seo Yul realized it was really him, one of South Korea's rare S-rank hunters, famous for turning literally anything in his hands into a lethal weapon. Kang Tan, the legendary S-rank master of weapons, barked that he could not just ignore this kid's useless backseat driving during his game. Right after that, though, Lee Jung-hai showed up, calling out for her master. Kang Tae-san asked if the brat was from the monitoring department. Our main character replied that no, he was just a rescue tracker. Kang Tan remarked that the boy moved way too arrogantly for a guide, adding that his only flaw was being too damn talented. Lee Jung-hai demanded to know where he had been, since she had been searching absolutely everywhere for him. The old man just replied he needed a second. She snapped back that the trainees were waiting and they had to go. But think about it, she suddenly asked how he found someone that even the entire department could not track down. He shrugged and said he was just highly qualified, and that his job was done. But before he could walk away, Kang Tae-san demanded to know where the arrogant punk was going, reminding him he was still a hunter with the department. He ordered the young man to follow him, wanting to test if the kid was actually as good as everyone said. Later, at headquarters, the master was lecturing the recruits that awakened individuals have a hard-capped maximum capacity, meaning no matter how hard a C-rank trains, they will never escape C-rank. But get this, the system does not define everything. Martial arts cannot be measured with simple numbers alone. Unsheathing his blade, he explained that flawless technique and high proficiency could make anyone vastly stronger. And that was exactly why everyone was gathered here today. Except, guess who was standing up on stage right next to him for the demonstration? Seo Yul. And honestly, he did not want to be there at all. Master Kang Tan then asked a recruit how long he had been training. The kid replied it had been 4 months, while the crowd whispered that he was one of the department's rare B-rank recruits. The master nodded, saying he had real potential, which was why he was chosen to stand up there. Then he asked a critical question. What did the recruit believe was necessary to wield a sword properly? The recruit answered that it takes absolute strength and understanding your own skills. Then, the master turned to ask our arrogant main character. Seo Yul answered, without a single second of hesitation, it is simply the will to swing. A massive uproar instantly broke out because the crowd thought his simple answer was absolute garbage. Kang Tan barked that he was being careless, but our main character stood his ground, knowing the old master was incredibly sharp. He was indeed sharp for an S rank. Kang Tan scoffed that for someone looking so lazy, he sure was an arrogant brat. But that was the correct answer. Trust me, you and I are going to love what comes next. Stick with me, he is screaming, demanding to know how that is the right answer, completely ignoring the fact that Yul is not even a real trainee and is just standing there. Yul wonders why this guy is throwing a tantrum over one question. But before he can act like a total child, Master Kang cuts in, stating that anyone with the right qualifications can stand here. He suddenly announces that he is dropping his original plan to give them both a test. They have to prove their answers directly on him. The rival disciple eagerly accepts. But Yul flatly replies that he is not really feeling it. Thanks. Master Kang says he has no choice but to go with the big guy as planned, but asks if he is absolutely sure. Passing means becoming a direct disciple under a top ranker. Yule quickly reconsiders. Training under an S-rank master would not only make him stronger, but it would also help him climb much higher. Master Kang asks the rookie if he feels fully prepared and motivated now. He replies that he is more than ready for this. Now pay attention, they move inside a closed arena. And this test is shockingly simple. They have to use a skill passed down by the master to shatter as much ether stone as possible. Whoever manages to break the most becomes his disciple. This ether stone is packed with insane magical power and only exists deep inside a temple. Yule heard that only incredibly powerful awakened hunters could even hope to shatter it. Still, he wonders what the master means by passing down a technique, and what kind of power it actually is. Meanwhile, the big guy is soaking up the spotlight, demanding cheers and hype from the department staff. Only Lee Jung-hee is not cheering. She just cannot comprehend what is happening or why Yule is even standing there. But Yule knows that no matter what, this is his one big shot. Master Kang announces that he will now transmit his skill. He warns them that if they fail to feel even a spark of this power, they will be disqualified on the spot. At that exact moment, he unleashes his terrifying sword aura, leaving both of these rookies completely unable to breathe. You saw how intense that was, right? Yule has to endure this crushing pressure just to grab the skill while fading out. But at the absolute edge of his consciousness, deep inside his mind, he senses something and witnesses a vision. He witnesses a spear and successfully unlocks the skill. He has conquered both the Serene Mind and the Dragon King's spear. The old master notes that judging by their pale faces, both of them definitely have the talent to learn it. Both of them are completely spent, their faces frozen in pure shock and exhaustion. Most of the regular spectators watching have passed out. Then Master Kang asks who wants to go first. The big guy steps up instantly. Gripping his massive two-handed greatsword, he vows to crush the spirit of the weak punk who dared to challenge him. To a guy like him, all this talk about willpower is absolute garbage. He was already suspicious of the kid the moment he walked in with the old master, refusing to believe a mere D rank could survive that pressure, assuming the kid just bought his way into the test. The big guy swings his blade, tearing a massive chunk right out of the ether stone. The crowd goes wild, wondering how he broke it so easily, whispering that a guy this strong is way too overqualified. Master Kang quietly nods, noting that the boy actually managed to pull off the Dragon King's spear. The big guy shoulders past Yule, muttering that his spot is secure, but Yule fires right back, asking what kind of pathetic life he lives, being this terrified of a rookie and walking on eggshells. The master breaks up the bickering, announcing that it is finally the rookie's turn to step up. Yule admits to himself he only barked back because the guy was seriously getting on his nerves, but he has to respect that his opponent has some serious, raw, destructive power. But wielding this skill is not just about muscle. It is a true test of a warrior's resolve. Besides, Master Kang said his answer was the only correct one, the sheer will to carry a weapon. Sure, he said those words casually, but that is only because it is his absolute truth. He asks himself why he still carries a blade, why he joined the rescue department in the first place, why he slays monsters, why he remembers the hero who saved him, and why he keeps saving others. Separate questions, yes. Yet every single one points to the exact same reason why he wields his weapon. That is why he became a hunter, to grow stronger. And now, you and I are about to witness his legendary Dragon King's spear heart-piercing strike. Alright, you and I are about to see everyone lose their minds over this insane power. Kang Tan stays quiet, but that seasoned veteran loses it, gasping. What on earth is that? So Yule straight up vaporized the stone. The master actually apologizes to Gunsu, joking that his junior is about to snatch his rank right out from under him. He explains that weapons and skills are really just simple tools. To unlock true power, you have to master yourself first, regardless of the weapon. With that, he officially accepts Sol as his personal disciple. But elsewhere, Seo Yule's childhood friend and neighbor, Yeonhee, is in deep trouble. She is being brutally beaten in the streets by thugs from her school. Their handsome leader sneers that she should have run when told, and this is what happens when you do not listen. A tiny girl smoking a cigarette chimes in, pretending to care. She mocks that her heart is breaking, scoffing that dear Yeonhee brought this on herself by playing hero. Did she really want to help her friend that badly? Suddenly, the girl turns and slaps Ginte right across the face. She scolds him, but Gente just laughs it off, sneering that it is a pity since she now has absolutely nobody left to save her. Her friend apparently jumped off a building on her own and is now clinging to life in the hospital. So, what can she even do? Yeonhee just glares at him with pure rage, which only gives him a perfect excuse to hit her yet again. Suddenly, one of Ginte's men, a rank B hunter who calls him young master, steps up to interrupt them. Ginte decides he is done for now, ordering his goons to secure the girl so she cannot escape. He demands that the rank B hunter follow him as well. When the hunter asks where they are going, Ginte replies they are heading somewhere secluded to play until they are fully satisfied. Completely unaware of the unfolding nightmare, Lai Zhang talks about how awesome it is to train under a legendary rank S hunter and get a free weapon. Searle does exactly that, choosing a bizarre weapon known as the Spear of Evolution. It only has a pathetic 50 durability, but its special effect allows it to evolve according to the wielder's desire. Lai Zhang laughs about how many crazy things happened today, noting that her shift ended a long time ago. Searle asks what she actually calls work. He questions if her slacking off counts as real duty, but outside, a desperate woman is frantically searching for him. Guards are blocking her, but he steps in. Trust me. What she says next changes everything. The frantic woman, who is Yeonhee's mother, gasps that her daughter was dragged away into the deadly yellow zone. He instantly demands to know who took her. Meanwhile, deep inside a creepy forest-like dungeon, Ginte's friends worry if entering this place is actually safe, but he laughs it off, claiming he did not bring an expensive rank B hunter along just for show. All he wants is to watch this defenseless girl fight a deadly beast, mockingly asking if Yeonhee is terrified. He tells her they are only weak monsters, and if she fights with the same fire she used to slap him, she will win this super easily. She suddenly breaks free and runs, but Ginte orders his hunter to grab her. You and I both know this absolute psychopath is going to force her to fight. Ginte is a complete lunatic, which explains why he targeted her poor friend in the first place. Her desperate escape is brutally cut short when the rank B hunter trips her, sending her crashing hard onto the ground. She screams for help, but nobody is around to hear her cries. The first wave of monsters closes in, and the rank B hunter readies himself. Suddenly, a stray monster attack strikes the smoking girl, killing her on the spot. A sharp blade pierces her chest, and the terrified rank B hunter warns his master they must retreat right now. Genti demands to know what is happening. The hunter yells back that they are stinghawks, massive predatory insects that hunt like giant killer wasps. Fortunately, So Yul has entered the dungeon, thanking his ally for the tip. He knows this guy was the one who tracked down Yeonhee's location. Young Min, from the combat unit, replies that he was simply doing his duty. Reporting a personal mission is his job, but he still warns Sol to stay safe, though our hero tells him not to worry. Either way, this place is a total disaster. The yellow tape seals off a zone completely overrun after a major dungeon break. The beasts here are not the strongest, but they are terrifyingly smart. They have adapted to this brutal environment and are using the terrain to hunt their prey. He is slaying these pests, but they keep coming. Trust me, things are about to get wild. Alright, trust me on this, they were way weaker than the red goblins. But for any unawakened human, surviving here would be a total nightmare. So he charged in to save Yeonhee, but out of nowhere, an even bigger insect horde blocked his path. So he finally fought back with his portal, showing the bugs exactly how the goblins were shredding their friends inside, while mocking the swarm to bring on as many reinforcements as they wanted. And the wasp horde did just that, calling in a massive, terrifying swarm. They lunged right at Seo, who actually considered running because things were getting dangerous. Plus, the monsters inside his dungeon were already starting to thin out pretty badly. Shoving any more insects inside would definitely cause the dungeon to collapse. But with too many enemies left outside, he used his absolute last resort, opening a portal, sucking the swarm in, and then submerging the portal completely underwater. This instantly drowned every single bug trapped inside. His inventory bag turned into a disgusting, filthy mess of bug parts, black blood, and dirty water. Sol admitted it was going to be a huge pain to clean up and fix the dungeon. But hey, his crazy plan worked, and the area finally got quiet. Well, on his side, anyway, because those rich prep school kids were still running for their absolute lives from the wasps. Now, look at this spoiled brat. Ginty is literally screaming, asking why a B-rank hunter can't handle some stupid bugs and is running away like a coward. The hunter argued there were just too many, and stopping to fight would put the young master in serious danger. Ginte just snapped, shouting that he was completely sick of this and demanding to know why his B-rank bodyguard was so useless. Meanwhile, his other friend's legs got shredded, leaving him totally helpless against the swarm. Finally, the hunter turned to face the monsters, but they immediately used that opening to ambush Yeonhee and Ginte. But out of nowhere, another hunter appeared and absolutely decimated the beasts. Ginte demanded to know who it was, and Soleil coldly replied he was just a department watchdog. Ginte immediately cursed, blaming Soleil for dragging Yeonhee into this mess. Right then, she ran forward and threw her arms around Seol, sobbing uncontrollably. He realized this was the very first time he had ever seen her cry. Meanwhile, Ginte arrogantly ordered the department hunter to lead them straight to the exit. Yeonhee begged Seola to just ignore him, crying that she just wanted to leave. Seo softly apologized, and in the blink of an eye, knocked her unconscious with a quick strike, promising to finish this up and take her home. Ginte screamed, demanding to know what the hell he was doing. Seo calmly replied he did it because she really shouldn't witness what was about to happen next. Ginte barked, asking if he knew who he was messing with. Seo shot back that as a department agent, he easily recognized his pathetic face. Park Ginte, the Supreme Court Justice's son. Let that sink in for a second. He was deeply involved in bullying, theft, and pretty much every dirty crime you can think of. He committed countless crimes but always bought his way out because his daddy was a powerful judge. Ginte sneered, asking what he was going to do about it. But mid-sentence, a brutal kick shattered his shin, sending him straight to his knees. Soleil smirked, asking if it felt good to buy his way out of everything. He sarcastically suggested Ginte try bribing him right now to avoid getting beaten to a pulp, while already grabbing the brat tightly by his collar. But Soul was suddenly cut off by the hunter serving the rich brat. Ginte smugly bragged that it was too late to beg, claiming Soleil could never defeat a B-rank hunter. And honestly, that long-haired bodyguard was insanely fast and lethal with his blade, but Soul deflected every single strike with his spear, saying he was willing to let it slide with a warning. But his opponent had officially crossed the line by trying to murder him first. In pure self-defense, he countered with a heavy, earth-shattering blow that blasted the B-rank bodyguard right backward. The man panicked internally, wondering why on earth a mere department hunter was totally overpowering him. If Soul were actually B-rank, he would have recognized him, so he assumed he was a lower-rank nobody. The real issue was that the bodyguard used a thin, lightweight sword, while Soleil wielded a spear with a massive reach advantage. The B-rank desperately tried to close the distance, but Seo Yul grabbed him by the throat and absolutely leveled him with a brutal punch, putting him down instantly. Ginte fell into complete despair, and let's be honest, you and I are probably wondering the exact same thing. Was that weakling really a B-rank? You and I are about to see him realize his own stats had surged lately, without him even knowing, wondering if he was already sitting comfortably at a solid B-rank level by now. For some bizarre reason, that idiot Ginte actually tried to sneak up and ambush Sewell with a rock, which backfired completely. With one lightning-fast spin of his spear, he slammed the brat face-first onto the dirt. Saley glared down and asked him how it felt, pointing out that a spoiled punk like him had never been beaten down like this before. Meanwhile, the innocent people he tortured for so long suffered 100 times worse. Genti spat back that if he hated it, he should have gotten power and money himself, since that is how the world works. Seo Yol just nodded, agreeing that he used to believe that, before adding that the world is better off without a worthless piece of trash like him. Gente shivered, asking what he planned to do, but Seo told him to relax, since he was not feeling too ambitious today. Just making a piece of absolute human garbage like him suffer a painful lesson would be more than enough. So he swept Yanhee up into his arms and bluntly declared he was leaving Ginte behind to rot, since after all, the bastard had plenty of wealth and power to save him. Now pay attention to this. Left alone in the pitch black, the dungeon beasts tore Ginte apart, and just like that, the terrifying nightmare of Yanhee's kidnapping inside the yellow tape zone finally came to an end, reuniting her with family, while Seo's loyal friend, Jung Min, waited for him outside. He reported that the authorities had successfully hunted down the dirty officials who let Ginte sneak into the restricted zone in the first place, completely wiping out the entire corrupt group from the department. Chaos erupted. While those crooked officers were getting dragged out, news of the incident spread through the entire community like wildfire. Eventually, the whole mess was swept under the rug when Supreme Court Justice Park Bun-jin was forced to resign. Suddenly, the system chimed with a deadly new elimination quest: Hunt the Queen Wasp, the absolute apex of the swarm, with a strict 30-day time limit. Defeating her would grant him several legendary high-tier items, along with a massive reward of 100 gold. But failure meant his combat power against insect-type monsters would permanently plummet by 50%. When Sul first walked out of the dungeon with Yeonhee, he had actually stood face-to-face with the Queen Wasp herself, but chose to walk away and avoid a fight back then. But let's look at what he is up against. Even the low-level worker wasps had enough raw power to trigger a dungeon break, so their queen had to be an absolute god. After that, he bade farewell to the office crew, telling them he had something urgent to handle, and was heading out early. His manager smiled, saying it was awesome to see him so active lately, but immediately asked if his massive pile of paperwork was finished. Selly answered with dead silence and walked right out. Yeah, he definitely did not finish it. He had exactly 1 month before the Queen Wasp quest ran out, and the longer he waited, the more that terrifying insect swarm would expand its territory. He had to make sure he was absolutely and utterly prepared, so he headed straight to his master to kick off some brutal, high-intensity training. Stepping inside the deeply traditional temple, Seo Yuel had to change into a formal kimono. He asked if he had officially become the master's direct disciple, or if this was just a temporary trick to motivate the rest of the crew. The master confirmed it was official, but sternly warned him not to get cocky, since 2 senior disciples still ranked far above him. Besides, the mountain of grueling training waiting for him was going to be absolutely insane. The master showed him around the facility, where he was met by Gansu. The guy was glaring at him with pure suspicion, which made sense, since some random newcomer had just appeared and snatched up a highly coveted spot. Later on, Master Kangtan pulled out a severed skull, explaining it was the jaw of an iron demon, a rare and highly dangerous variant beast. He revealed that this monstrous creature was the first thing that had ever come close to ending his life. Trust me, his first task was deceptively simple. Using insane raw strength, the master pried the demon's iron jaw wide open, but when he let go, the massive jaw slammed shut with a deafening, bone-crushing thud. Koinsu spoke up right away, calling the master a total martial arts god. Stick with me, because this guy is unreal. Meanwhile, So Yule silently realized the old man was on a whole other level, possessing an absolutely terrifying amount of strength. The master turned and told him it was his turn to try. Yule figured he could at least pry the thing open by a single centimeter. After all, he had just recently reached the level of a B-rank hunter. He squeezed and strained with every single muscle in his body, but the master looked totally bored because the massive mechanism did not budge even a fraction of a millimeter. Kang Tan calmly explained this training was meant to build core physical strength, so he just had to keep trying day in and day out until he finally succeeded. But no matter how hard Seo stood there straining, the damn thing refused to budge even a single inch. Watching this embarrassing display, Gonu knew his suspicions about the new guy were entirely correct. This kid had clearly wormed his way in through pure nepotism, which was an absolute insult to their entire legacy. Bright and early the very next morning, Gonu found himself reflecting on his own tough journey. It had already been 2 long years since he first joined the prestigious Martial Arts Association. He worked 10 times harder than anyone else in the building, just to prove he deserved to become a direct disciple. Yet some random guy just walks in off the street and steals the spot. No matter how he looked at it, the whole thing felt incredibly unfair. But the moment he stepped into the main hall, the new guy, So Yol, was already training hard in the dim morning light. He warmly welcomed his senior, bowing deeply to show real respect. Gyeonggu noted dryly that he was up pretty early for a rookie. Yol politely replied that, even on his days off, he felt the need to stick to his routine, kindly adding that the veteran could speak casually with him from now on. Gansu was not buying this overly friendly act, but he suddenly noticed the wooden floors were practically glowing. He asked if the rookie had cleaned the entire dojo himself. Holding a mop, Seo Yol smiled and said the place looked a little dusty, so he decided to clean it up. Gunsu told him to stop doing that right away, complaining that it made everyone else look incredibly lazy when a direct disciple was running around doing basic chores. Yule tilted his head, asking if they really needed to worry about hierarchy for simple things like cleaning, saying he just had some free time and wanted to be useful. He added that holding a disciple title did not mean he was too good to help clean up the place. They were all there for the exact same purpose, to get stronger, and that was all that mattered. To him, keeping the place clean was just a sign of hard work, and he wanted to work hard. But to Gansu, this humble attitude just made the guy incredibly annoying. Over the next 2 weeks, Seo Yol returned every single day. Pay attention, because his dedication is about to pay off. He constantly tried to pry open that heavy jaw mechanism, but failed every single time. Despite holding a prestigious disciple title, he never once abused his authority, never looked down on anyone, and got along with everyone in the temple. On top of that, he trained like an absolute beast. This reality made Gonu even more furious, because when it came down to it, Seo Yol was exactly the kind of perfect person he wished he could be. On that day, Seo Yul almost managed to crack open the jaw, and the guys actually cheered. Gunsu even brought him water, telling him not to push himself too hard. Yul joked that it took forever just to get him to speak casually. Suddenly, a loud alarm blared through the temple. Gunsu explained it was the mobilization signal for the Overcross Guild. They were heading to a nearby dungeon, and it had to be today. Seo Yul asked if they had to go now. I know, perfect timing, right? And Jinu replied that the Overcross Guild works around the clock because they are completely dedicated. He mentioned he used to work for them, so he knew exactly how they operated. Meanwhile, inside the portal, the raid team had already wrapped things up with crazy speed. They successfully captured a rare steel blood orc. One hunter assured the skeptics that this beast would fetch at least 12 billion won on the open market. Since guild money does not grow on trees, they planned to sell it. The only issue? This orc had absolutely no intention of sitting still. As the rescue shift ended, the manager asked if Yule was heading back. Trust me, you and I are going to want to see what happens next. Alright, you and I are starting today's wild ride, right as Seo Yule declines. The manager wanted him at dinner, but he refused. He was way too locked into his training, but suddenly, a loud alarm pierced the air, demanding emergency support from every available team. A 3-star class boss monster, illegally transported, had just broken free and was now going on a wild rampage. The chaos was happening right at the Martial Arts Association. A few disciples managed to escape, but the Overcross crew was not so lucky. Gunsu stayed behind to stall the beast, which was that exact same giant orc. Gano always thought of himself as a genius and a prodigy ever since joining Overcross. He used to believe that exploiting smaller guilds was just the right of the strong, but then he realized he was being used too. He was nothing but a disposable pawn, and one day, they just left him behind to die. That was when he learned how cruel this world is. Still, he refused to believe everything was rotten because someone had actually saved his life. And now, pay attention, because he wanted to be the one who saves others, too. He pointed his shattered sword at the orc, so the other disciples could run. His legs were shaking, but he held his ground, hoping to buy them just 1 minute. Suddenly, something massive crashed straight through the ceiling. Seo Yul landed right on top of the beast, telling Gunsu to leave everything to him. He dragged the beast into his own dungeon. But soon, he was running for his life from that giant orc. Honestly, it was much stronger than he expected. This iron blood orc was tearing through the maze walls like a runaway freight train. It definitely earned its title as a unique monster. Taking it down solo was going to be tough. So Yul shifted the walls and summoned every single monster inside his labyrinth. While his minions swarmed the beast, he waited for the perfect opening to strike, but there was none. The Iron Blood Orc completely wiped out every single summon with one devastating swing. His ally count dropped from 35 to 29. Seo Yul snapped, asking if the monster knew how hard it was to clean up. He realized standard monsters were not going to give him a breakthrough. He hated using this due to the high risk, but a steel trap would let him collect more hardened blood. With a wave of his hand, he summoned his dungeon boss, the giant ghoul Kiori. The two giants traded massive blows, and Seo Yul finally found his chance, driving his spear right into the orc. But feeling the intense pain, the beast went berserk and absolutely crushed Kiori, taking him out instantly. A system alert popped up, warning him that since the boss was dead, monster respawning was temporarily disabled. Seo Yul grumbled that thanks to the beast, his main boss was completely gone. So he triggered the first trap, driving huge metal needles deep into the orc. Immediately after, Seo Yul landed a heavy spear strike, pinning the orc down as spikes rained from the ceiling. He muttered that he had set up multiple traps in this zone for a reason, and thank goodness he did. A warning popped up showing the dungeon's durability had dropped to 72%. It would break completely if durability hit 60%, or if all his monsters died. The giant beast seemed to celebrate its victory, and Seo Yul knew losing his boss was a massive loss. Still, he would have been completely doomed without that distraction. But of course, he spoke too soon. Right at that moment, the giant orc stood back up. Using its steel blood to shield itself, it crawled out from under the massive spikes and entered its final phase. Now, watch this, because instead of breaking his dungeon, he used a portal to warp them to the real world. Meanwhile, Gunsu was still trying to escape, wondering where the heck Seo Yul went. Ever since he attacked the beast, they had both vanished into thin air. But speak of the devil, Seo Yul dropped right back out of a portal, landing dead center in the training yard. He raised his spear to deflect a barrage of heavy strikes from the beast. He knew his body should be absolutely exhausted and running on empty right now, unable to block any of these devastating blows. His intense training had paid off, and those 2 weeks were not wasted. He was not godlike just yet, but he was way stronger than before. Though his body screamed in agony, he pushed through and landed a heavy, solid strike right in the monster's stomach. The beast coughed up blood onto his spear, but trust me, a brutal retaliatory strike is coming. Alright, let's jump right in as the beast hurls Seo across the yard, proving his armor won't pierce so easily. but then he realized he had landed right next to the Iron Demon's massive jaw. As the orc charged, Gonu slashed at the creature's arm to buy time, only to get brutally slammed into the ground yet again. Seo Yul seized the opening, grabbing the demon's jaw to deliver a direct hit that shattered the bloodhelm, leaving the orc totally vulnerable. Seo Yul pried the giant jaw wide open, slamming it shut right on the orc's head, devouring it whole as the skull exploded in a burst of blood, yielding a brand new demonic dagger upon the boss's defeat. He thanked the mechanical jaw, realizing that this victory meant he was finally ready for the next phase of his training. Meanwhile, Gunsu was looking back at his painful past, remembering the dark day he was left behind to die. He pictured the savior who had rescued him back then, and suddenly, his eyes locked right onto Seo Yul. He couldn't tell if this kid was actually that legendary savior, or if his mind was just playing tricks on him. But Seo Yul was saving him right here, and that was all that really mattered. And just like that, it blew over. The next morning, a massive swarm of reporters aggressively cornered Baekjun Hwan, the powerful director of the Overcross Guild, right outside headquarters. They grilled him relentlessly, demanding to know if he would admit to smuggling dangerous monsters illegally. Putting on a massive show for the cameras, Baekjun Hwan offered his deepest apologies to the victims. However, he smoothly lied that the Steel Blood Orc had incredible research value, claiming they only captured it to donate to the department, completely ignoring the massive risks involved. He refused to comment further, claiming he was fully cooperating with the monitoring department's ongoing investigation. But get this, he wasn't their only target. As Seo Yul tried to walk past, the reporters swarmed him as well, bombarding him with questions, asking how a simple D-rank hunter could possibly defeat such a terrifying monster. Luckily, his manager quickly dragged him away, but a reporter yelled out, demanding to know if the department's response was completely useless. He argued that their entire job is to keep guilds in check to prevent these disasters, openly asking if the department itself shared the blame. Seo Yul muttered to himself, wondering what kind of absolute trash this guy was talking. His manager quickly told him to ignore it, explaining that the guy was obviously just a paid sellout, posting biased clickbait for the big guilds, and giving him any reaction would play right into his hands. Now watch closely, because Seo Yul confronts him. Walking straight up, he asked if the stream was currently live, warning him to listen very closely because he had a message, directly asking the guy if it felt good taking dirty money just to clean up the guild's garbage, especially since the department is always the one cleaning up the disasters their executives cause. Straight up asking if he thought that was right, Director Baekjun Hwan didn't say a word, offering only a deeply threatening, silent glare. But right after that epic call-out, his manager literally dragged Seo Yul away by his hair. Watching them walk away, Baekjun Hwan asked his men if that was the same kid who ignored him earlier, muttering that a newborn pup truly doesn't know to fear a tiger, coldly ordering his right-hand man to handle that little piece of trash immediately. The moment the YouTuber's video went live, headlines about Supervisor Seo Yul flooded every major media outlet. Back at headquarters, the manager admitted the kid had definitely spoken out of turn, but argued that any actual disciplinary action would be a massive overkill. He strongly defended Seo Yul, arguing that the major guilds were clearly at fault, and these videos were obviously staged, pointing out that countless people online were actually thanking him. But Gu Hong, the department chief, snapped back that whether the video was staged or not, everyone was talking about it, leaving them with no choice but to punish him. The manager fired right back, arguing that if anyone deserved punishment, it was Overcross, or the lazy bosses supposed to manage them. Gu Hong sneered, asking if the manager was calling him and his entire team completely incompetent. Manager Li Han stood his ground, asking if that wasn't exactly the truth. This makes the chief completely lose his temper, screaming at him, but a veteran officer finally steps in and trust me, you're going to want to see what happens next. Let us dive in. The director turned to manager Li Han, asking if this rookie truly had a perfect 100% rescue success rate. Standing tall, the manager confidently confirmed it, prompting the chief to realize they had a rare, priceless genius they could not afford to lose. He knew that even if they had to rely on powerful guilds for support, the department's pride and reputation had to remain absolutely intact. Since the guilds had played a clever opening card, if they could not retaliate with equal force, they at least needed to deliver a worthy reply. Meet Kwang Su, the formidable and highly influential director of the entire department. And soon enough, Seo Yul was summoned straight into the big boss's private office. After all, they had a highly critical, top-secret matter to discuss. Sipping his tea slowly, the director threw a heavy question his way, asking which rank he honestly believed he would get if he retook his official evaluation exam right now. The boy calmly replied that while he couldn't pinpoint the exact tier, it would definitely be far above his current rank. Smiling, the director pointed out that the rookie had been pulling off miracles that a mere rank D hunter could never even imagine. He warned him that things were getting tight for the brass, especially since tons of jealous rivals were actively trying to dig up dirt on him. Pay attention here because Yule immediately wondered if this smooth-talking director was subtly pressing him to spill all of his hidden secrets. This director was a cunning master politician who had kept his powerful grip on the department for years, and manager Lee Han had already warned the boy to stay completely humble and honest, since playing mind games would only make his situation 10 times worse. Yule chose to take that advice, for now, yet he still hesitated, deeply unsure if he should reveal the existence of his unique solo dungeon. But the boss laughed it off, promising he would not pry into how the kid suddenly acquired such mind-blowing power out of nowhere. They just needed his ultimate strength. With the pleasantries out of the way, the chief got straight to the point, dropping a massive bombshell that he was transferring him to the countryside. Oddly enough, the annoying Junhwan was lurking nearby, pulling coordinator Se-woo into a corner to ask what he really thought of this kid. The coordinator shrugged, saying he barely knew him since they worked in entirely different divisions, but he was curious why Junhwan suddenly showed so much interest in a low-level rescue member. Junhwan sneered, claiming there was absolutely nothing more frustrating than having an annoying pest buzzing right before your eyes. Realizing what was up, the coordinator asked if he pulled strings just to banish the kid to the middle of nowhere, earning a sharp glare and warning to watch his tongue. As Junhwan smoothly claimed he only wanted the rookie to have some peaceful time to reflect on his actions. You saw that coming, right? At that exact moment, Yule strolled right in, asking if they had always been this close. Junhwan sneered, bringing up that his assistant manager, Seiyu, seemed a bit off lately, adding that a rumor was spreading about Yule being kicked out to the countryside, demanding to know if the gossip was actually true. But Yule instantly turned the tables, asking how Seiyu could possibly know that when the transfer paperwork had not even been officially finalized yet, boldly questioning if he was secretly playing spy within the department's private files. Yule calmly added that it was just a brief 6-month stay, causing Junhwan to bust out laughing at him, mocking his ridiculous naivety, and pointing out that only top-tier chiefs or higher are ever transferred to that specific region, sneeringly asking if he actually thought he was on their level, and telling him it was time to wake up to reality. But Yule just grinned, declaring he was merely waiting for the perfect moment to break the news that he had actually been promoted to senior officer. An insane double promotion. Unsurprisingly, both of their faces froze in absolute shock. Mocking their priceless expressions, Yule laughed, noting that they did not exactly look thrilled to hear the good news and teasingly asking if they wanted him to fail. Junhwan gritted his teeth and forced a smile, claiming it was wonderful news, but growled under his breath, wondering out loud if the agency had suddenly started handing out elite promotions like free candy. Yule confidently shot back that they were simply desperate to lock down an elite, unmatched genius like himself. He knew very well that Junhwan was boiling with pure rage over this failed scheme, but honestly, he did not care one bit. They exchanged a heavy, silent glare before Se-woo stepped in to break the tension, reminding director Junhwan that they had to get moving immediately. The director quietly agreed, muttering that he got sidetracked, and swiftly walked away with Se-woo. But Yule was not finished, tossing one final, icy warning at the departing man, and trust me, that was the ultimate mic drop, proving that no matter where they banish him, his mission remains exactly the same. You and I are starting right after So leaves, where an angry Junhwan punches a wall, shattering it in pure rage. Meanwhile, back in the director's office, the boss sits back and reflects on his recent talk with Seo Yule. Back then, he told the kid not to worry, explaining that while this looks like an exile on the surface, it is really just a 6-month deployment. Of course, he still needs to bring results, since that is the only way to keep enemies away. Seo Yule thanked him for the help, but made one very specific request. If he was getting sent away anyway, he wanted the director to assign him somewhere that actually, genuinely needed his help. The director could not believe the kid's attitude, given the circumstances, realizing right then that this rookie is worth every single penny. Later, when the official notice drops, the entire rescue department is left completely scratching their heads, wondering how on earth Seo Yule became a senior officer in a single day. One guy asks if Lee Hone already knew about this. He snaps back that, of course he did, since he is the manager after all. The squad is stressed about handling rescues without their star rookie, but manager Lee Hone tells them they will just do their jobs, same as always. Now, you and I know the kid got a week off before deploying, so the manager orders them to invite him to their team dinner. One guy grumbles, asking who actually goes to a work dinner on their day off, but when they call Seo Yul, he is a bit busy. His friend asks if he is doing homework, and he says it is basically that. He is actually clearing a massive hornet nest. Seo Yule is right in the middle of a deadly extermination quest to eliminate the queen of the swarm, with only 3 days left to pull it off. He hangs up, realizing that even though he moved fast, the queen is mass-producing soldier hornets at an absolutely insane speed. But that does not matter as long as he can keep moving. In the end, he just needs to kill the queen. Suddenly, as he charges, a storm of steel stops him. It is a special type of hornet that shoots its stingers like actual bullets. Since these monsters waste tons of energy to make them, the queen normally avoids using this attack, meaning they must have prepared for him well in advance. If he wastes another second, he will be completely surrounded, so he hurls his portal forward. Using the dungeon traps to deal with them, the portal throws the swarm off balance. Seo Yul grabs this chance to blitz right through the entire forest. Different kinds of hornets lunge straight at him, and he notices their behavior pattern has completely changed. Some of these insects are purposefully clinging to the ground to avoid getting sucked into his portal. And right here, we finally see her emerge, the monstrous hornet queen who has been watching him this whole time. He is almost flattered. This giant queen is throwing every single thing she has just to take him down. Too bad for her, he has got a solid plan too, because he cannot have these bugs respawning forever. This is his signature move. He opens a portal and dives inside to lose the monsters, determined to move faster than ever. He blitzes through a massive chunk of the forest using the portals, constantly jumping and skipping whole sections until he finally tracks down the queen. The air is heavily polluted, and the queen's pheromones are growing suffocatingly intense, summoning the entire nest to protect her. It is a total trap, but even so, relying on pure sixth sense, Seo Yul dodges the first strike from this evolved, insanely powerful monster. While dodging the beast, Seo Yul admits he did not expect a monster of this level. She must be desperate to kill him. But despite her massive size, this giant bug just made a huge mistake. This means when he strikes, the queen will be left totally exposed. So, Seo Yul throws the soldier bug inside the portal and pushes forward to strike the queen. But the beast escapes by cutting off its own arm, throwing itself directly in front of him to protect the queen. Seo Yul snaps back that they are being a massive pain in the ass, and no matter how hard they try, the outcome is staying the same. And since sending just one did not work, he drags both of them into his portal, the soldier and the queen. This was not his original plan, but it works, because they are finally trapped inside his domain. He gives them a friendly piece of advice, warning them that if he were them, he would not move an inch. The soldier charges anyway, making him mutter that he is losing his mind for trying to talk with a monster. He activates the Iron Rain, but as they shield themselves with their wings, you and I are left waiting for his next move. But, alright. You and I are jumping right into the action as arrows rain from everywhere, blasting the soldier before another trap completely roasts him. Seol glared at the queen and said, "Now that your ultimate weapon is gone, it is just you and me." He charged forward, knowing her heavy armor would easily bounce those arrows, meaning he absolutely had to locate a vulnerable opening. He thrust his spear, desperately trying to force a gap, but got pushed back instead. Defeating her was never going to be that simple. With only 3 days left before the quest timed out, he had room to breathe, but he wanted to end this fight right now. Leaving the dungeon just because he could would feel exactly like running away from a tiny insect, and he refused to do that. So, he triggered the explosive block trap. The massive blast flipped the Hornet Queen right onto her back, ripping several of her legs clean off. The move completely wrecked his spear's durability, but it paved the way for a devastating martial arts strike he let loose right after. He figured, if he was debuting this ultimate technique, using it to obliterate the Hornet Queen was the perfect way to do it. He unleashed the Crimson Lotus, a blazing, fiery strike that pierced the queen and finished her off, instantly completing the quest. But the sheer force of that attack left his main spear hand severely injured and trembling from the impact. He quietly reflected on how he had saved countless lives before, yet in the end, he was still just a weakling facing these truly powerhouse monsters. Now pay attention to this, he finally realized he would never have to run away again. With the quest rewards sent straight to his inventory, he knew he had to inspect his haul right away. He scored a Toxic Stinger, a highly rare weapon boasting way more durability than his trusty spear. It had a unique effect with a 95% chance to paralyze any monster ranked 2 stars or below. For 3-star targets, that rate dropped to 30%. He could easily swap this in depending on the fight, and honestly, it was going to be incredibly useful. But the absolute jackpot here was the Hornet Queen's Royal Jelly. To put it simply, it permanently supercharged his mana sensitivity, though it did come with a catch. He learned that triggering labyrinth traps drains his mana automatically, meaning he desperately needed a massive pool to scale up his defenses. He downed the royal jelly in one go, instantly feeling a wild storm of magical energy exploding deep inside his chest. It was violently trying to rip its way out. But after everything Seol had survived, he refused to let this raw power crush him, successfully taming the energy to upgrade his entire body. His senses instantly became razor-sharp, all thanks to that single drop of royal jelly. You and I both knew his stats were about to skyrocket, especially his total mana. Risking his life for that crazy quest was definitely worth it. Even so, he could not help but worry about potential side effects. Aside from having to forcefully control the mana to prevent any backlash, he was still completely in the dark, so he decided to worry about that later. The actual main event was finally about to begin. He planned to bring all these fresh monsters into his dungeon, which had only been home to basic ghouls and goblins until now. Regardless of how overpowered he was individually, there was only so much he could achieve while fighting as a solo player. He desperately needed reinforcements. Luckily, the system chimed in, explaining that a hive acts as a single entity and suggesting a decomposition pool. This was the awesome new trap unlocked by taking down the queen. By dropping a monster corpse directly into this new decomposition pool, the spiritual essence of the dead beast would transfer directly into a designated target, meaning if he linked it to the hive, every single egg would hatch into a supercharged monster. Soon, the entire batch was integrated into his dungeon. He immediately spotted one massive hornet that looked way stronger than the others. It had to be the new queen. After naming his new queen, he finally logged out of the dungeon to grab some drinks with his buddy, Jung Min. His friend started wondering out loud. Since Lee Jung volunteered to help them out first, she was probably secretly worried about Seol's sudden deployment. Seol replied that even if that was true, she was still running way later than them. Jungmin shrugged, saying it was just her usual routine anyway, before asking what he had been up to lately. Seol casually mentioned he had been busy collecting food for the little hatchling he was currently trying to raise. Jungmin blinked, asking what he meant, and wondering if he was raising some illegal pet. And that is where we leave it. Trust me, you are going to want to see what happens next. Alright, you and I are about to watch Seo Yul completely shatter his rank evaluation limits. His friend chuckled, saying anyone else would have gone on vacation, calling him the biggest weirdo of them all. But his buddy noticed everyone was staring at him because of the news. Yul admitted he felt it too, that heavy, overwhelming sensation of dozens of eyes locked right onto him. He jokingly asked if he had somehow gotten more handsome. Young fired back that no matter his looks, that definitely was not the reason. Finally, Lai Zhang showed up. Seol playfully called her shameless, but stopped dead in his tracks. Why on earth was her nose suddenly bleeding? A bit later, she sat there with a tissue plugged into her nose to stop the flow. And Young Men offered to grill the meat himself, but she stubbornly refused to let him, insisting she should handle it since she was late. The guy told her to at least keep her eyes open while cooking. Seol sighed, telling her to hand it over because she was making him incredibly nervous. And for some bizarre reason, when Li Zhang looked up at Seol again, she pictured him as a jaw-droppingly gorgeous stallion and slammed her face onto the table. Right then, the nasal plug popped right out. Blood started spurting everywhere all over again, and she collapsed completely onto the floor. Seol stared in utter disbelief, wondering what the hell was wrong with this girl. Suddenly, another girl approached and he urged her to call an ambulance, but she was actually just there to ask for his phone number. Now watch closely, because Seol was wondering what ridiculous situation he had stumbled into, until he noticed something highly unusual that explained the root of the problem. Later on, when she was feeling a bit better, she stole a quick glance at him and muttered she must just be exhausted from overwork. Jung agreed that she needed to stop working so much overtime, but Seol knew the real truth. It was entirely his fault. He had consumed royal jelly to get his new special constitution. But the problem was, a hornet queen commands her soldiers through pheromones, and he had completely forgotten that crucial fact. Basically, the guy was a walking magnet now, exuding raw, irresistible attraction to the opposite sex. Li Zhonghai admitted her heart would not beat wildly like this just from being tired. Let that sink in. She was confessing right then that she was head over heels for him. Seo Yul panicked, telling her to see a doctor immediately and ordering the girl to back away. But in that exact moment, he realized he was actually having fun, deeply missing normal, ordinary days like this. He had been so completely consumed by getting stronger and killing monsters, and things of that nature, he had completely forgotten to actually live his life. Still, it was best to enjoy the moment. Soon, he would be heading to the countryside, not showing his face around here for a very long time. Later that day, Director Kwang Soo reviewed the official results of So Yul's evaluation. His power was clocked at a staggering 7.5. Keep in mind, the strict cutoff score for an S rank is 7.8, meaning he was practically sitting on that exact same tier. The doctor nodded eagerly, confirming that was correct, noting it would massively elevate the entire department's reputation. But Director Kwang Soo countered, stating this information would stay strictly between the two of them for now. He did not want to force such a heavy burden onto the kid. Besides, when the perfect moment arrived, the young man would reveal his power on his own terms. Later, he was on a ship bound for the countryside, breathing a major sigh of relief. The rescue department people had chased him all the way to the port because he had not completed his paperwork before leaving. Seol noticed the ship felt incredibly bizarre. It was absolutely massive, yet there were very few people on board. A little boy approached him, asking if he was heading to Oolong-do. He replied he was, and asked why. The boy responded that he rarely ever saw anyone on this ship. Seol asked if he took this ship often, and the kid explained he did not. But on the anniversary of his parents' death, he always visited the cemetery with his grandmother, leaving Seol feeling quite awkward. But the kid smiled, saying it happened long ago, leaving you and I wondering what adventures await him next. Stick with me here, the kid explained. He had no idea where our main character was headed in Inongo, but warned him to stay alert because that area is incredibly dangerous. Watching the boy reunite with his grandmother, Seo wondered if he was actually a kid, given how mature he acted. See, Uliwangdo is a high-risk zone where small portals constantly pop up at any given second. The massive problem is that there simply aren't enough awakened ones to handle them, keeping its safety rating at rock bottom for years. And of course, the government couldn't care less. Yet despite the constant danger, the locals refuse to pack up and leave. Why? Because it's still their beloved home. Now, pay attention here. During his trip, the dangers immediately show themselves as a giant sea monster, with massive tentacles aggressively tries to capsize their ship. As the vessel violently shakes from the impact, So-yul runs up to the deck to see this monster for himself. Right at that moment, a brand new subjugation quest pops up. Slay the Kraken before reaching Ulongo. His reward? A batch of random skills and high-tier equipment. But if he fails, he will lose health points, mana, and get completely locked out of his own labyrinth. So-yul realizes this penalty is brutally harsh, and the quest even comes with an incredibly strict restriction. You're going to want to watch closely, because the Kraken cannot get within 10 kilometers of Ulongo, meaning he has to end this fast. Meanwhile, over at the Ulongo branch office, one of the resident hunters is wrapping up their monthly status report. Another guy asks if basically nothing happened over the past month, and the hunter confirms that is indeed the case. The chief nods, saying they should keep things quiet and peaceful, just like that, before telling the hunter to head back to his regular duties. But another member who is already completely wasted asks if the guy smoking a cigarette is actually the real boss of the place. The smoker explains they have strict orders from Kwang Soo because some new troublemaker is about to arrive at their branch. He is, all over the internet lately, making headlines as the notorious brat who just cannot stop causing massive problems everywhere he goes. The drunkard asks if the Roman uncle sent the kid down there. The smoker shakes his head apparently. Even he had no idea. But since they are closely tied to Overcross, they plan on giving this kid a brutally warm welcome when he finally arrives. Then, the smoker asks his drunk buddy if he can handle the job, teasing him that if he manages to make this young man completely disappear forever, he would grab a massive payout from Overcross, and you and I both know he would get his chief title back.